Open your book to page 175. We're going to start a new activity. It's activity 12, all about forms of linear functions. Today we're starting lesson 12.1, talking about slope-intercept form, which may be familiar to you from middle school. So we are going to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. And we are going to use slope-intercept form to solve problems. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we are talking about a diver that's descending into a lake or an ocean, and that causes pressure on the diver by the weight of the water. So think about if you are in a lake or a pool, and as you swim deeper and deeper into the water, sometimes your ears might start to hurt. Okay, so if we are looking at the table and the graph, they represent the total pressure Y on a diver given the depth X under the water in meters. Okay, so we are going to do question 2 and 3 first, and then come back to question 1. Okay, so question 2 says, what is the slope of the line? Okay, remember, we can find the slope 2 different ways. We can use the graph, and we can find 2 points, and I think there's one here and here, and we can count rise over run. Or, remember, we can pick 2 points and use the slope formula using our table. So if I'm looking at my table, what is the change in y values here? What are my y values increasing by every time? What's the difference between those two? And if we didn't know, we could always plug it into our calculator by doing this, or by doing this. Okay, so how much are we going up by? What are we increasing by here every time? We're going up by 0.1. Perfect. In the first column, our x values, what are we increasing by? What's the difference here? 4 minus 3, 3 minus 2, 2 minus 1. We're going up by 1s here. Okay, so my change in y divided by my change in x just reduces. So this right there would be my slope, 0.1. So let's write that down for question 2. And it says, what are the units of slope? Well, it'd be my y units over my x. So my y is atmosphere. It's abbreviated as ATM. And my x is meters. And I got that by looking at my graph, looking at my labels for my x and y axes. So the slope is 0.1. The units are atmosphere per meter. Question 3 is asking us, what is the y-intercept here? Where does the line touch or cross your y-axis? Okay, and it's not labeled, but we can figure it out. If this is 0, what's halfway between 0 and 2? This would be 1. Okay, so my y-intercept occurs when x is 0, y is 1, and it says explain its meaning in this context. Well, 0 is the depth under the water, if you're looking. Okay, 1 is the amount of pressure. So this is the amount of pressure on the diver at the surface of the water. Or when the depth of the water equals 0. So now that I have my slope and my y-intercept, we can go back up and answer question 1. Because we always need our m and our b, our slope and our y-intercept. So question 1 says write an equation. The equation is always going to be y equals mx plus b for right now, to describe the relationship between the pressure exerted on a diver and the diver's depth under the water. So y equals m, which is our slope, and that's question 2, x plus b, which is my y-intercept, and that's question 3, and it was 1. So we're going to write plus 1. Slope-intercept form. This is really important. You might want to write it on a sticky note so you can move it from page to page. You can always have it in front of you. Y equals mx plus b. Very, very important. We are going to use this a lot in Algebra 1, and then you're going to see it throughout the rest of your high school career. M is your slope, also called your rate of change, and that's your rise over run. And when we write our y-intercept, it's always 0b, but we only take the b value, and we plug that into our formula, our linear equation. Okay, so question 4, I want you to answer it. Can you write down what is the slope, which is your m, and what is your y-intercept, which is your b? And remember, before we were writing that as an ordered pair, 0, comma, a number. So my slope here is -2. My b value, my y-intercept is that 9. So this would be -2, and this is 0, comma, 9. And we're going to use this equation on the next page. Question 5. Create a table of values for the equation y equals -2x plus 9. Then plot the points and graph the line. We're going to have to plug and chug here. So if I'm looking at this table, I see that I have a list of x values, and I'm going to substitute or plug in those x values for x in my equation. Okay, so if I was to write this out for you, it says -2 times x. Well, my first x value in the table here is -2, and then I'm adding 9. So you can do that in your head, or you can use a calculator, and whatever your answer is, that's your y value, and you're going to write that in the y column. And I want you to do that for every x value up here. And when you're finished, I want you to try to plot these points on the graph. Okay, so I filled in my table, and then when I plot these on my graph, my ordered pair would be -2, comma 13. And my x values come first, so I have to go left and right, in and out of my elevator first before I can go up and down. So left to -2, up to 13, 0, 9, 2, 5, 4, 1, 5, -1. And then do your best. Take a straight edge and go ahead and connect these with a line. Try to cheat here. See if I can get a straight line. And then after you draw your line, make sure you have arrows pointing in both directions, because what that means is that my line continues, keeps going. Question 6. Explain how to find the value of the slope from the table. So if I'm looking at the table, I am going to pick 2 points. I'm abbreviating here for you. And find change in y over, or you could say divided by, the change in x. Pick 2 points, use the slope formula. Remember the slope formula? So the slope formula here, if you remember, was y, change in y's that are on top in the numerator, over your x's are in the denominator. Okay, that's the slope formula. So let's pick 2 points from the table. It doesn't matter which ones we choose. Okay, it does not matter. What I'm going to choose are these ones right here, because I can see them without scrolling back up to the first ones. Okay, so change in y goes on top in the numerator, and I'm going to take the second y minus the first y. So the bottom y here is 5, or the second y, minus the first one, which is 9. What do we get? -4 divided by, and then we're going to use our change in x values. The second x, the bottom one, minus the first one. So 2 minus 0. Find the difference between those. What are we changing by from 0 to 2? We get 2. But I know that I can need to reduce this. -4 divided by 2, this simplifies or reduces to a -2. That's my final slope in simplest form. Question 7. Explain how to find the y-intercept by looking at the table. Then answer, what is the y-intercept? Then I would like you to answer questions 8 and 9. So go ahead and pause the video. Try questions 7, 8, and 9. You can do it. In order to find the y-intercept, we need to look or find the value when x equals 0. Okay, so if I go back up to my table, do I see where x equals 0? Right here. X is 0, so 9 is my y-intercept. So my y-intercept from the table is 0, 9. Question 8. Explain how to find the value of the slope from the graph. So what did you write down? How would you explain how to find the slope from the graph? Well, we need to find 2 points on our line, or pick 2 points on our line. And remember, we count the rise, and then we divide that by the run. And then don't forget, we always need to reduce if possible. Reduce, reduce, reduce. So let's go back up and look at our graph and see what it is. Okay, so we plotted these points. There's a point, there's a point, there's a point. Remember, we should all get the same slope regardless of what 2 points we choose. Okay, so I'm going to count the slope from here to here. So I know that my line is decreasing, so my slope is going to be negative because I'm skiing down the hill. And I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my rise. And I'm running 1, 2 boxes, but these are both even numbers. They're both divisible by 2. Negative 4 divided by 2, that reduces to negative 2. Now, if you chose to use these 2 points right here, you're going to get the same answer. I went down 2 boxes over 1. That reduces to negative 2. Same thing. If I wanted to use these 2 points, I'm going to get negative 4 over 2. Reduces to a negative 2. So my answer here is a negative 2 for question 8. Number 9 says explain how to find the y-intercept from the graph. And what is the y-intercept? So in order to do this, we need to find the point where the line intersects your y-axis. So where does that occur? Go back up. Here's my y-axis. My line touches or crosses or intersects at this point, which is 0, 9. So that would be the last answer to question 9. Your y-intercept is 0, 9. All right, question 10. You can answer on your own. Actually, why don't you do 10, 11, 12, and 13? Go ahead and pause the video. You can do it. I believe in you. 10, 11, 12, 13. The slope of this line is negative 5 over 4. Your y-intercept here, your b value, is 0, negative 10. Now, question 11 wants us to write the equation in slope-intercept form, but in order to do that, I need a slope, which is my m, and I need a y-intercept, which is my b value. Well, we just talked about how to find the slope from a table. This table is horizontal instead of being vertical, but you could pick any 2 points that you wanted. You can choose these 2 points and use the slope formula, or you can choose these 2 points and use the slope formula, or you can choose these 2 points and use the slope formula. Okay, I'm going to just choose the ones in the middle because I don't see any negatives. So that might cut down on my chances of making mistakes here. So I know that my y values have to go on top. So I'm going to take 3 minus 5 divided by 1, my x values, minus 0. So I did the difference between these 2 values and those 2 values. The second minus the first, the second minus the first. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 1 minus 0 is 1. But again, this can reduce to just being a negative 2. Have I fully answered the question? No, because it asked us to write an equation. We're not done yet. So I have y equals my slope, which is negative 2x, but I do not have my plus b. I do not have my y-intercept yet. We'll go back and look at question 7. How do we find the y-intercept from a table? When x equals 0. So my y-intercept is 5. So y equals negative 2x plus 5. Question 12. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line with the slope of 4, that's also your m value, and a y-intercept of 5. This is also your b. So y equals slope, which is 4, x plus b, which is 5. Question 13 says, write an equation of the line graphed in the My Notes section of your book. So if you didn't find that, look on the right-hand side. You have a My Notes section. There's a graph there. We need 2 things to write the equation. We need the slope, our m value, rise over run, and we need our y-intercept, which is our b value. Here's my y-intercept right here, where my line touches or crosses the y-axis. So that's at 6. But then I need to find another point on this line that I can use to calculate the slope, to count the rise over run. So let's see. There's a good point here. There's a good point here, here, and so on. Those are good intersection points. So I know automatically that my slope is going to be negative because this line is decreasing, declining. It's going downhill. And I'm going down 2 spaces over 1 space, and that reduces to a -2. So in order to write my equation here, y equals slope, which is -2, plus my b value, my y-intercept, which is 6. Okay? All right. Questions 14 through 16, I usually do in class with groups, and it's really fun for you to watch my horrible drawing skills as I try to create a visual for you of this elevator. And I love seeing you discover and put your brains together and figure out the questions and the answers with your group, but we are going to skip that for now. And for the sake of time, I'm also going to skip 17 and 18, but I will record those for you in a different video. We will still cover them because story problems are important. They relate to real life.